Hi, I'm Mark, G1DX, and thank you for joining us again at Martin Lynch Sons with Henry, David and I. And today we're just going to give you a first look at the new Icom IC-7760 200 watt flagship transceiver. So very briefly, remember it's brand new in the shop this, so we haven't had it too long, but my initial impressions of it. But what is it? So it is a twin receiver, 200 watt, direct sampling 16-bit SDR. It will be very familiar to anybody that's used an Icom product in terms of its operation. And we suspect the biggest market for this transceiver will be the existing Icom community, because it's the sort of radio that you can take home and be using within an hour or two. Genuinely, there are very few surprises on this radio. There are some evolutionary features on it, but it's very, very, very familiar. I have still got an IC-705, and I've had a 7300 in the past, and I like both of those transceivers. And when this is just like a big version of a 7300 in some ways. Some things that I did note, which is worth pointing out, I've noticed that Icom have gone back to their tried and tested screen technology as used on all the 7300s, 705s, 905s, etc. And I suspect that this screen will have a long life. And I'm sure there's no secrets. They had some issues with some of the other screens. This has gone back to that technology. You can tell immediately you look at it. The other initial impression you'll get when you come in, I hope you come into the shop and see the unit or even own one, is the presence of it. It's a very robustly built piece of kit, typical Icom. Well made, but something that is worth positioning this, the 7851, this is not a replacement for the 7851, it's an evolution of the 7610. So this is a far keener price pointed piece of equipment. The 7851 was very nice, but it was more like the Hillbillings that we sell. It was a very expensive unit, very nice. This is half the price, but brilliant in that it's 200 watts and it's got its own built-in power supply, and it's got all the developments from the 7610s like pre-distortion, which will give you a much nicer transmit purity. Of course, it's got the screen, which I'm sure David will be showing in a few minutes, and he will be operating through the radio. But the only other control which I hadn't seen before was the drive control, which some people that maybe have had a TS990 might have heard that term before. But basically it's an additional gain control between setting the power output and the mic gain. So you've got mic gain, drive and RF power output, which you can all alter, and you can tweak all those, and I suspect they've put that in circuit to again give you the ultimate in transmit purity. So you're not distorting, you're not overdriving or even underdriving the output stages. The other thing, of course, which is obvious, is that it's got a separate head. Now, anyone that's owned an IC-7100 will not be alienated by that. They'll think that's kind of cool. But it's that type of flexibility that this setup offers you. So right now, out of the box, this head connects to the base unit using an Ethernet, an RJ45 Ethernet cable, or it can connect to the base unit over your LAN. So you can basically site your RF deck, as it's termed, anywhere you want in the house, as long as you can plug it into a wired LAN. And likewise with the control deck, you can site that anywhere in the house also, as long as you can plug this into a wired LAN. So it gives you flexibility of siting the unit in your house, and going down the line with future firmware updates, promise from Icom, this unit will be able to be controlled over the internet as well, but right now it was controllable over a LAN, which still gives you a lot of flexibility. So that's my first impression of the front of the unit and taking it home for an evening for a quick play. So what we're going to do now is flip it around, have a look at the back of the radio, and there are a few surprises, actually genuine nice surprises, on the back of the RF deck. So we've turned the unit round, and here is the back. Of course, we've got the control unit up the top and the RF deck at the bottom. Now, I'm sure anyone that's got a 7610 will clap their hands instantly when we look at the count of the SO239 ports. 7610's got 2, this has 4. So now, instantly, a lot of folks are going to be ditching their external RF switches. No need, because now it's got 4, and that's actually a very good number. That now puts this above, say, the Yaesu flagship, so that's a nice addition. And also you've got the other outputs for things like transverters, or if you wanted to put an additional PAN adapter on there, whatever. You have got, of course, for an external tuner, the normal CIV port, which all Icom units have. Again, very welcome that you've got a nice RCA phono jack on the back, when the send ports and the LC, making it very easy to interface with say an older, more traditional linear. But these accessory ports, I suspect, will be things you'll use to power the external linear amplifier, and that will have all the information going into it for things like adaptive pre-distortion, etc. And you've got a good old USB port for doing various other things, possibly remote control, but it's not actually needed because that can be done through the Ethernet port. Now, 2 ports here. This is very much an Ethernet port, so the radio can be controlled via the LAN using this port. But if you, for instance, if you've had your, if you got bored one evening and decided to change all the IP addresses and completely confuse the radio, no worries. You've got this controller port, which will directly control deck will plug straight into the RF deck. So irrespective of where you've set your LAN connections, this will always communicate. That's kind of your fallback for direct connection. Very welcome, of course, is the built-in power supply. That's one other thing you don't need in your house, a power supply straight into the unit. And of course, you've got your on-off switch for the RF deck, though you do not need to turn the RF deck off when you finish with it, because this will effectively put it in standby. Also, in the back of the controller unit, again, when we talk about the radio, what are we talking about now? Because they're both the radio. You have, of course, your Ethernet port, which will either plug into your control port or your LAN port on the back of the radio, but normally it gets plugged into the controller port because that's a more dependable connection. If you want an external display, of course, you can plug into your DVI output, the royalty-free one. You've got some additional USB ports, which again, I'm not completely sure what they're for yet, because it's all, the firmware is being developed as we talk, and you've got your other interface ports, etc., for speakers, etc. The only thing is, I'd say with a lot of this stuff, apart from the microphone, of course, which plugs in the front, is that you've got a portable deck, so kind of it would be maybe a little strange plugging loads of other things into it. However, you might now, because you can decouple the RF deck from the control deck, you might choose to set up your operating desk around this head and then plug in things like external monitors, etc. So one other thing to take away, which is unusual for any radio that I can think of, is that this is rated at full power, full duty cycle for FT8. So great hooray from many people watching this, I can't think of another radio where we're actually going to tell you, yay, you can run this 200 watts FT8. So FT8 to your heart's content. So I'm now going to hand over to my colleague David, who's had a lot more time actually using this on air, whose birthday, incidentally, it was last Saturday. So please wish him a happy birthday in the comments. And David's going to go through what he thinks of the IC-7760 and how he's found operating it. And thank you.
Thank you, Mark, for that technical introduction to the 7760. Now, as Mark said, it was my birthday on Saturday, and I was driving home. I was working here on Saturday, actually, on my birthday, but driving home, I had one of these on the back seat. As soon as I got home, I took this straight out of the box, connected it up, and it was ready to go. I made a few Q shows without changing anything. And as everybody that does have an Icom radio, like an IC-73, 7610, or lucky enough to be able to get the 7760, you'll know exactly what I'm on about. They work out of the box, no setting up. You'll be able to make QSOs straight away. So what we're going to do, I'm going to go through the menus on the 7760, and you can have a good look of what's behind, what happens behind the scenes of this brand new flagship radio from Icom. Okay, here's the fun bit. Now we're going to look at the business end. This is the front end of the radio that us as operators are going to be using. So once we've got it all connected and everything, you can forget about that. This is where we're going to have some fun. A lot of this is going to be very familiar to anybody that's got a 7610 or 7300, but some of it's going to be new. So apologies for those that I'm going to be teaching how to suck eggs, because they've already got their Icom. But I'm going to go over as much as I can to try and give you a flavour of, number one, what it's like to operate, and number two, the functionality that it's at its core, and some of the new functionality that's exclusive to the 7760. Let's start off. We're going to start off down this hand side. So we're going to go over the screen first. Right at the top, we've got the antenna selection. Great thing, as Mark's just covered off, 4 antenna connectors, including an RX. So you can program them. This is the great thing about Icom software. You can pre-program each port depending on the band that you're operating on. Fabulous. We've got the preamplifier, which we've got 2 of. We've got the attenuation, and that will give you up to, I think it's 18 dB, but we'll have a look at that in a second. DIGI-SEL, that's an interesting one. Now before, when you turned on the DIGI-SEL, the one thing you couldn't do is deploy a preamp. Now you can. So with the new architecture of the 7760, it does allow you to do that. And again, it's got the good old Icom, press it once and it does a thing, press it twice and it will do something else. For instance, on the DIGI-SEL, if I press and hold it, it'll actually bring up the adjustment that I've got for the DIGI-SEL. Using the multi-knob, I can then adjust it. Top tip, using the DIGI-SEL, do it slowly. It takes a little while for it to take effect. So if you're turning it too fast and expecting to hear something dramatically different, you won't. You have to do it step by step by step, okay? So we're gonna turn the DIGI-SEL off. IP Plus, like the DIGI-SEL, the IP Plus will help you either suppress the overloading signals, loud signals that you can receive, and also help you pull out those ones that are very weak. We've then got the AGC, and obviously we can use this to our advantage. I mainly run mine on slow. That gives the needle a little bit of averaging, for want of a better word, and it just works for me. But there's 3 settings, you can try them out. We've then got compression. Compression is now on. Press and hold, and I can set my compression right there, and we'll go into that in a little while. We've then got the main menu down at the bottom. If I put that back on menu 1, we've got the edges, we've got hold, center fix, and this is where we can move the VFO around. And then if I change it, now it's moving the back around, so it's actually moving the frequencies itself. And then we've got the where we are, where we're transmitting and receiving is right in the center there. And then obviously we've got the main and sub we can switch between. So we want it on that one. Hit the menu, you then got your reference, the all-important reference. This changes nothing that you're hearing. It doesn't change anything on your TX in. All it will do is change the reference on the waterfall. So, you know, some of us have a little bit of noise at home, so we can just calm it down a little bit so we can see the peaks of what we want to work. Turn that to turn the referencing off. And then we've got various other settings. The main one is the one on the end here. Again, we can press it and we get that full screen waterfall view that we love. The other thing is, if we press and hold it, we then get into all of the settings, which will allow us to adjust how we want that waterfall to work. Whether it's colors, whether it's the span, and the beautiful averaging, which is on all of the Icom radios, the 73, 7610, and now the 7760. Averaging is one of my favorite things on here. Basically what that does for the uninitiated, it calms down how quickly those peaks move. You've also got peak hold in there as well, so it shows you a little bit of history. So that's pretty much it for the base menu down here. If we go back to the menu, and again, we've got that center fix where we can change how that performs. Now you might notice we've got span here. Fantastic. We can look at a little bit of the band, or we can look at a lot of the band up to 500k, and then we're back to 2.5. So we put that back to 25. Now, depending on this center fix and where you are with that, you might have noticed that that's now disappeared. So don't fret like I did in the very beginning when I first had my 7300. I was like, I've lost my my little span for me to be able to adjust how much of the band I'm actually listening to. So don't worry. That's why it disappears. Hit the center fix and it comes back. Just a little tip there. So that's pretty much it on the touch screen there. You do obviously, if we minimize that, you got some other things that you can do. You can switch between VFO A and VFO B. We can hit, and then we can select the frequency or the band frequency that we want. That's pretty cool. So we can just simply touch it and it moves across. We can also change the mode, which is quite cool. Again, it's exactly the same on all of the Icoms there. That's pretty much it for the LCD screen. Now we're going to move over to the left-hand side of the radio. So power on and off, no bother to. Notch, that's an interesting one. When we press the notch, that has AN up there, which is automatic. We can also put it into manual mode, which is pretty cool. So up here we've got the representation of the band pass that we're listening to, and you can see there's a little M up there. And then if I press and hold manual notch, which has appeared on there, that will then allow me to notch out part of that band pass. And as you can see, it gives you a visual representation of exactly what you're notching out. So in a competition, you know, you're probably going to be using the IP Plus quite a lot. It's very good in contest mode, but also for me, when I was testing it, making sure that I was nice and tight up to somebody that was already TX in, and then trying to null them out, trying to notch them out, using the notch and also using the IP Plus and checking what that was doing when I had it on and when I had it off. So a nice little bit of testing there. Visual notch, love that, really like it. So there's the notch. We've got the transmit button, which basically when you press it, the unit's going to go into transmit. We've got the all-important tuner. Press and hold, and away it goes. Tunes really, really quickly. Obviously, when you do move around, depending on your antenna, it's not hit the tune button, do a tune, and then that's good for the entire band. Depending on your antenna, you know, every few KCs, you may have to retune it. So you'll only know that by measuring your antenna and having a quick look. But every time you move frequency, it's always a good tip just to hit that tune button. Don't tune up on somebody else's frequency, just move to the side and then tune up. We've got the noise blanker, so we can turn that on with one press. It engages the noise blanker, but if I hold it, it then brings up this menu across this side here. If I go level, that's the level that's going to be deployed, the depth, and then the width. So how much of that bandwidth am I going to affect? If we press it again, that menu then disappears. So again, press once, it does something, press twice, it does something else. Same with the noise reduction. If I press it, it deploys the noise reduction. If I press and hold it, it brings up the level of noise reduction that we're going to deploy. And we can have a look at that in a little while. And then down the bottom here, we've got the controls from the subband. And up here, we've got the main controls for VFO-A. We've got the outer ring that will manage our RF gain, okay? So you can see there, when I engage it, we get a little symbol appear there. I just turn it off, and then I just turn it on. And that means that the RFG, the RF gain, is actually being deployed. So you can wind it back, wind the gate back, all the way back, until you can just see the grass growing, for want of a better word, because I did make it green. And that will allow you just to calm down the amount of noise, if you do have that at home, on the front end of the receiver. That will leave the rest of the radio to be able to do all of the refining. So rather than having the barn door wide open, we've got it closed a little bit. We've got some control coming in on the wanted signal that we're looking for, and that will work pretty well for you. The inner knob, that is the volume. Nice and easy volume control. We're going to come over to this side now. This is where it gets really interesting. I'll leave my favorite bit till last. So we'll just work on the buttons on the right hand side. This is the multi-knob. So this moves everything around that's selected. So if you've got something selected, you'll use this to move it around. You've got the dual watch feature, split feature, and then we've obviously got our RIT, our clarifier, just in case somebody is off frequency or we want to do something nice with that. And that's how you can control the clarifier there. On the top, we've got this beautiful little display, which is the band pass. And this is, as I said earlier, a visual representation of the section of the band that we're listening to. We've got the filters, and we can adjust those in two places. So if I touch once, that will put me on 2. If I press again, it'll put me on 3. All of these filters are the total bandwidth that we're listening to within the filter itself. These can be set in the menu. So if you want a really narrow filter or a really big medium filter, you can adjust all of that. So at the moment, I think I've got this set to 200 to 2900 for the main filter one, which is that one there. You can then quickly change the shape. So if you want some soft edges, just to calm the edges down a little bit, you can do that, and that will slightly calm down the edges. We've obviously got the manual notch, which I showed you earlier. With the filters, you can also adjust them from over here. So we've got filter 1 engaged. We can press it and it will go to 1 and 2. Okay. Now, if we've got a little bit of noise up or down, or we want to manipulate those filters on the fly, we can. And we do that by using this outer knob and inner knob here. And you can see there, as I move it, you can see the right hand side of this actually moving around. And then you have a visual representation here of the band pass as well. It tells you how much or how big the band pass is that you're listening to, and depending on what you need to do and what you need to move around. So if I move that, I can then move the entire band pass filter around. Don't worry if you get it muddled up and all of a sudden you're listening to a QSO and you're not quite sure what you've done. this button here, press and hold and it'll reset it. So have a play with it. Try different combinations of, you can see, I don't think it stays up long enough, but you can see this filled area, that's the bit that I'm listening to, and that's how I'm manipulating the band pass. Have a play with it, press and hold it, it will go back to where it was before. We've got a beautiful VFO knob. It's really, really smooth. You've got the adjuster at the bottom to give you some resistance. If you like it not free playing, you can do that. And then obviously we've got what VFO we're on. So I'm on the main, you can see that's lit up there. If I go to VFO-B, and they are, as Mark said, two totally different receivers in this unit. Now, again, my favorite bit, which is this little section up here. If I hit the sub display, I then get my band select, which is kind of cool. So really quick to change bands. I think it's great for contesting to have this part up here, as well as having the filter, if we put it like that, having the band pass filter, because it does help you know what you need, where you need to put the notch as well. Again, if we go back to here and I press and hold, what it will do, this is band stacking. So all I did was press and held the button. I'll do that again. And this is your band stacking. So it remembers the last few frequencies that you were on for any particular band. So you can go to those. So for each band, you can have up to 3 sections that you can go to really, really quickly. And they change as you change bands, which is quite nice. We've then got the normal display. So for instance, the advantage of this, let's say I don't need PO, I need SWR. So I can put that on SWR, and then I can have this one on my ALC. So if I want to keep a close note of my ALC while I'm operating, you know, I don't want to run too hot and I don't want to run too cold. So I can adjust my ALC on the fly there, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Now, if I press and hold it, it then gets this feature that normally we go into the menu section of the radio to deploy. I really like this because it brings up every parameter that you can possibly need. So at the top we've got power, we've then got our ALC. Again, I like keeping an eye on my ALC. I like keeping an eye on my compression, making sure that it's, you know, 10 dB or less. Sometimes I run it a bit hotter if I'm contesting. We've got our SWR, and then we've got our ID on the amount of current that we're drawing. So a really nice, simple screen that you can have up whilst also having your other displays there. And as you may have noticed earlier on, if I put the extension on, you can see that these have now changed to quite traditional bar graphs. If I turn the RF up a little bit, you'll see. So it does that automatically, and you can also set that on the fly from within the menu. So we'll turn the multifunction off. So I really, really like this little window. It's a fantastic add-on, especially for a flagship radio like this. And I've really, really been enjoying that. And the radio in general, I think is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love it. It could be a new addition to the shack, my shack, certainly in the future. So we'll just have a quick look at some of the other menus. These are some of the other important things, if you've not used one of these before, that when you do get an Icom, this will give you a little bit of a heads up. Multi-knob, again, if I just press it once, we've got our RF power, 200 watts on this radio, and I've been using all of it at home. I've not spared the horses, 200 watts, and it's pretty much got me everywhere. Mic gain, again, there's some great videos out there on how to set your mic gain and your compression. I suggest you watch one of them. In fact, we might even do one on setting up your compression and your mic gain. But you got free adjustment there. You got your compression. All you simply do is just touch it, and then you can adjust your compression. We've got DIGI-SEL on. That's down there, and I can adjust that too. And your monitor. Obviously, if you want to have a quick sneak peek of your what your audio is sounding like, you certainly don't have to do that with this radio, because as I said, it just works out of the box, and the audio reports that I've been getting have been amazing. I've even listened to myself on Hat Green, and it sounds really, really nice. In fact, there was one QSO I was having, again with Darren, Mike Zero, DCX, and he just said it sounds absolutely wonderful. Now, he knows what I sound like on my own radio, so he knows. And right at the end of the conversation, he goes, David, tell me, you're not using the fist mic, are you? And I said, yeah, I'm only using the fist mic. And he said, I'm going to have to go. I'll see you later. So very, very impressive audio from all the reports that we've got. Main menu. Again, nice and familiar. If you've had a Icom before, let me press it, you'll recognize this, this setup here. We've got the scope when we want to put the scope on. We've got audio when we want to look at the receive audio and our TX audio, which is pretty cool. We've got the voice. This is really good in competitions. So we can pre-program these for calling, save a little bit of our voice in these 48-hour contests. The great thing about the Icom is you can press it once and it will put your CQ called out that you've recorded. If you press and hold it, it'll keep on repeating it until you key the mic. So again, a nice little feature with the Icom. We've got the meters. Now, we looked at that earlier on up here. This is just a little bit of a bigger version of it, so you can have it up here as well. Another unique feature to Icom. This is like a little mini SWR analyzer built in to the radio. So we're looking at 5 bars. So I normally put this up to, I think it's 13. There we go. And then we'd press play, and then we'd key up the mic, keep on doing that until it's gone all the way across, and we'll get a little bar graph showing here on what our SWR is like. Okay, so it's pretty flat on there. So a fantastic feature. So let's go back to our menu. Memories, scanning, recording. Obviously we can play audio that we've recorded, and then we can also record in sets. Now this is the audio you're receiving. So if somebody's talking, you can record it, and then you can either message it to them or you can save it for later. Maybe it's one of the best QSOs you ever had. So you can actually record your QSO while you're recording. It will record your audio as well. Again, another nice feature. Antennas, as I said at the top of the video, you can program these. It's super cool. So if you've got a set of antennas, and on number 1, you've got the 40 meter, 20 meter on number 2, and so on, you can pre-program it. So as soon as you go to that antenna, the frequency will change on the radio, and away you go. Okay, presets. Everybody that's got the Icoms will be used to this now. This is a fantastic way of setting up for FT8. So you can hit that and it will change everything that needs to be changed. There is a list of things that needs to be changed that you would normally have to do manually, that it will do for you. As Mark probably mentioned, this is a full duty cycle radio, and as it says in the manual, full duty cycle on FT8. I don't think there's anything else that claims that. If we go back to the menu, and then we've got our settings. Settings, once again, are easily and really well set out. I'll point out some of the new things that we got. So we got the DPD adjustment. Now, again, this is unique to the 7760. So this will help stop any distortion when running high wattage when you're TXing. So it's for the person receiving your audio, it's for their advantage. So it improves your audio. The only other thing that I've gone into whilst using this really nice radio is the tone control. So as I said, it will work out of the box. Here's the settings that I use with my voice. It's going to be different for you, but this is how I adjusted it. So we're talking about RX, we're talking about receive, and you can change it depending on the mode of operation. I was just using SSB, so I can go into SSB, and then I'm going to go up to the bass, and I normally have +2 on the bass, and then on the treble, I have +1 on the treble, and that seems to work for me. If I really want to make it a little bit punchy, say if I was doing a contest, I'd probably put that up to about 3. And then that will really punch out people's audio from the speakers, and I'll probably roll the bass off a little bit, because you know, for me, especially when I'm contesting, I want to hear those higher frequencies. Nobody's got bassy audio in a contest. Well, some have, but most don't. So you really want to lighten that up a little bit. But for general receive, that's how I would have it set. If we go back again, TX audio, SSB. So I have the bass off for my TX audio. I say off, -2. It's not off, -2. And then I have +2 on the treble. That seems to work for me. It worked for all my other Icoms. So that's where I had it set once I played around with it. Earlier on, I was speaking about the bandwidth of the filters. So obviously that also complies to your receive and your transmit. And this is where you can preset the filters, which is really cool. So you can see the standard filter is normally there. Okay, it's normally 100 to 900. So I rolled off some of the bass there, and I have that set at 200 to 2900. And then the other two I haven't changed. So the mid will give you quite good DXE audio, and you can change that on the fly simply by, if we go all the way back, there we go, oops. Simply by, if we do scoop, pressing the filters here, and that will change on both VFO-A and VFO-B, or on the little screen up here, if we go to there, press once, and then we can also change our filters there. Everything else remains the same. That's where you put your phones in. This is where you can put your SD card to back up the radio and all the settings that you've put in there. You've got your quick functions, which operate in exactly the same way. So this will give you a visual representation of some of your filtering, for instance. You can turn the Vox on and off from here as well. And then obviously you've got your TX bandwidth right there. You've got your quick menu, and it's exactly that. It's a menu that's quick for changing things. You can change the meter select or your drive gain if you so wish. I didn't even touch none of that. I didn't need to. You can also start your recording there. If I had an SD card, that would be recording right now. What we're going to do now, we're just going to have a quick look up and down the band and see if we can find anybody that we can work. What we'll do at the end is we'll cut in some of the clips that I've managed to take from me operating the unit from home. So let's have a look to see what we can find. Golf 2, Mike Lima. Golf 2, Mike Lima. Yeah, Golf number 2, Mike Lima. Over.
Okay, Golf 2, Mike Lima. Okay, you're 5x9, 5x9.
Oh, thank you for the 5x9. You're about 5'7" to 5'8", and I'm about 5 kilometers east of London. Over.
Yes, okay, 100%. Thank you very much for calling me, and have a nice afternoon, and good luck. Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, ciao.
Okay, perfect. Quick contact on the radio. And what we're going to do now, we're going to pop some of the videos from home in, and you can see the little pile up that I had going over the last couple of days. So enjoy the clips. Tango, Papa Tango, calling CQ on 40, over. Station ending in November.
Okay, hello David, Ocean Echo 2, Mexico, Romeo November.
Roger, Roger. Thanks ever so much for coming back to the call there. And I think you got my name. It's David, and I'll give you a signal report on the next over.
Roger, David. You're 5'9",
Oh, Reinhard, thank you ever so much. And you're an easy 5-9 plus. 5-9 plus into St Albans. I'm about 30 kilometres north of London, over.
Roger, David, 100%. I don't hold you, a lot of stations are calling you. 7-3, thanks for coming back to me. And the chat, all the best with 2ML&S. Thank you.
All the best and have a wonderful evening. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed those clips from home. I know it wasn't perfect videography, but it was just from my phone. I certainly enjoyed making those contacts. So a summary of what I think as an operator using this radio. I absolutely love it. I really, really do. I don't think I've stopped smiling since I took it out of the box on Saturday. It fulfills everything that I need from a radio and more. Can't think of another radio where you can have a head unit like this and use it somewhere else, or use it from the lounge, or wherever you really want to use it. The screen, the Icom software, 200 watts, as some of you know. I like a little bit of power. Tonight this is going to be connected up to my Acom, and we're going to run a little bit of power this evening. So come down, come in the shop, have a go for yourself and see it in the flesh for yourself, because it is something. It is the Icom 7760 flagship radio. Absolutely amazing, and I loved every minute spending with it on the air. So that's everything from me. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.